Hello everyone. Today we will have two interesting stories. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics and the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listened to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail, broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell you my story. I've been drinking alcohol non-stop for the second day. We've been married for 3 years, both in our 30s. We lived well, as it seemed to me. We have always understood each other and loved each other. We weren't millionaires, but we didn't need anything either. Now let's move on to my story. This Tuesday and Wednesday I had days off because I had a special schedule. My wife quit a month ago and is now waiting for a place at another job. Therefore, we can afford to go to a country house in the middle of the week. We planned this trip a week ago to clean the house before winter. I called an electrician to check the wiring. But we also wanted to barbecue and drink wine to close the season. I'm at work on Monday afternoon. My wife calls me and says she can't go because her mom made an appointment with a realtor on Tuesday and asked for her help. My wife was a lawyer and it was impossible to reschedule the meeting with the realtor. As a result, she told me to go alone and she would arrive on Wednesday morning. I had no choice, plus I had already arranged with an electrician. After lunch, I was at the country house while I did a couple of things. It was already 6 p.m. My wife calls me and says they have a meeting with a realtor in an hour. After the meeting, she will stay the night with her mother. Okay, then let's get in touch you later. Well, since that's the case, I decided to drink beer and fry sausages. I was just about to drink my first beer, suddenly the bell rang. My mother-in-law calls me and says that I promised her to put the car at the service. Therefore, she asks to put her in the queue. She said it quickly because she didn't want to distract us from our rest. She knew that we were in a country house. Therefore, she apologized and asked me to tell my wife that she would arrange a meeting with the realtor tomorrow afternoon. She is staying with her sister now and will stay with her until tomorrow too. To say that I was stunned is to say nothing. But I didn't say anything and we said goodbye. After the call, I quickly packed up, got in the car, and drove home. I could barely restrain myself from calling my wife. I understood that if she was cheating, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I had the keys to my mother-in-law's apartment at home. I was putting in her door lock, so I had spare keys. I decided to go and check out my mother-in-law's apartment. If my wife is not there, then call her and ask where she is. Breaking the speed limit. Thank God everything went well. When I parked the car, I saw the light in our apartment turn on for a second and then go out. I even calmed down a little because I thought that my wife was at home and was not cheating on me. I ran into the entrance. Both elevators were on the ground floor. But for some reason, they were broken. I walked up to the 3rd floor, went to the door and began to open it with my key. But the door was bolted from the inside. I stood there and sweat poured from my forehead. With shaking hands, I began to call my wife and at the same time knocked loudly on the door. She picked up the phone and began to say something in a trembling voice. I told her to open the front door immediately. Then everything was like in the movies. My wife was standing with her lover half naked. He was wearing only a sock and a t-shirt. There was an unfinished bottle of wine on the bedside table. In a rage, I took him by the scruff of the neck and dragged him out onto the landing. After that, I gave him 2 options. The first is to tell the whole truth and stay alive. The second is to end up in the hospital. He chose the first option and said that their affair had been going on for 2 months. He said they had sex and so on. I let him go and he went into the apartment. She was trying to say something and explain it to me. I calmly asked her to collect the bedclothes from our bed and get away to her mother. I also said that you will pick up your things later. At that moment, I saw a used condom under the bed. At that moment, I was slightly overwhelmed. As a result, I couldn't help but slap her in the face. Then I threw her out into the stairwell in her underwear. After that, it became somehow empty in my soul. I called work and took a vacation at my own expense. My mother-in-law came today and said she fully understands me. She apologized for her daughter. I decided that there would be a divorce and no other options. There can be no other options except for one abomination. This story has come to an end. Let's move on to the second short story. Let's go. Probably everyone has shocks of varying degrees in their life. Someone has more, someone has less, but I would not advise anyone to go through what I have to overcome now. 9 years of life disappeared instantly, depreciating like postage stamps of the last. But I will start the story about everything in order. Exactly a week ago, I found out that for at least 6 months, violent passions have been going on behind my back in my apartment. This happens at the moment of my lack of communication with business trips. At that moment, this discovery caused a storm of bad emotions in my head. However, feelings have already been defeated, and only cold logic and sober calculation remain. Everything was revealed thanks to the memory-consuming Android system. My wife asked me to format her phone. When transferring photos and videos to my laptop, a lot of interesting things came up before formatting. Videos of my wife's intimate nature and screenshots of correspondence with her former colleague. I began to dig deeper. According to my wife, their affair lasted 6 months. I may not understand something, but why lie when it's already pointless? However, since her SIM card was my duplicate number, and thanks to the service that I connected 6 years ago to save messages, it turned out that my horns have been growing for a long time. I just didn't notice them. Now it adds to my optimism, because there is no turning back, and there will never be a way back. Now I'm doing my best to make sure that her lesson is taken into account for life, taking my 5-year-old daughter to her grandmother, naturally by agreement with his wife. I had a substantive conversation about how to fuck up the future of 3 people, perhaps 7 people, since her lover is married and has 2 children in his family. I was happy to pass the information on to his wife. Maybe it's unethical, but ethics are already beyond the pale in this situation. A DNA test will be done upon my return from a business trip. I went on a business trip and interrupted my vacation because I couldn't stay at home. At the same time, exhausting work that unloads my head. So during these 2 years, I've been earning money to buy a home. I managed to do it. I was already looking at the options, but it's a pity there's nowhere else to spend it. Many people can say mortgage, but I didn't want to get into debt. I want to say that in case of divorce, the division will be tough, but this is in her opinion. But I am glad that my wife has not worked for these 2 years, and there's no contribution to this amount. But now I'm thinking about how to secure my money. After all, there's the implementation of household management. $1.5 million were rolled out by means of donation at the insistence of my grandfather. I praise his wisdom and wish him long life. We argued with him then, even had a fight. A loving spouse should appreciate her man's contribution to their family. But for myself, I found out the following. Only a girl can lie so skillfully, lying and dodging for 8 months. The surrealism is that during the showdown, I was characterized as an asshole and blamed for her act, which caused a blue screen in my eyes. It was at that moment that I realized that there was nothing left to lose. Now let's move on to combat pros. The paternity test will determine a lot of my actions. Will I get a heart attack at 32 or not? If the daughter turns out to be mine, I will seek her lived with me. I didn't want to give my daughter to my wife. Her life will be doomed. Because living with my wife and 6 other people in a 2-room apartment is difficult. I also didn't want to pay alimony to a girl of 𝐖𝐲𝐟𝐿, so that she spends it on her own entertainment. Fortunately, I had the opportunity to move to the capital where my company's branch was. Of course, my salary may drop by half, but it's not scary. If the child is not from me, then I will take my daughter to mother-in-law. Let her get out on her own. In the end, my wife was left in a big ass. She doesn't have a job and she doesn't have her own place either. I am currently on a business trip and have put my thoughts in order. I completely ignore my already ex-wife. I have hired a good lawyer and I will fight to the bitter end. After a while, there was a trial, and thank God in my favor. It is not yet known who the daughter will be with, because this is a difficult question. Plus, the DNA test is not ready yet. But I can say one thing, I have already left my wife without a penny in my pocket. I really hope that daughter will turn out to be mine and I will take her to myself. If you like the stories, give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, so as not to miss new videos. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. According to tradition, I want to wish strength and patience to our heroes. In both cases, the men did the right thing without any doubt. I hope that your life will get better and alcohol is not the way out of their difficult situations. Move forward and develop. Try to distract yourself and find new hobbies. In the first situation, I liked what mother-in-law did. There are still people who understand, and she was ashamed of her daughter. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.